second speaker on Asta Chanchal. Hi, Asta.
Hi. Hello,
hope you're doing good.
Yeah, I'm good.
So I would move on to Asta, and it's also co-authored by Mehak on clinical legal education in India. And Asta is a third-year student with MNLU, and she's been part of various organizing committee, and credentials for her as a third-year student is extremely brilliant. And wow, it really, her belief is what is interesting. She believes that learning and exploring legal education can be done at the grassroots level. I hope you have excellent insights to share with us as well, since I believe you haven't done any of the clinical papers yet, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Right, brilliant. It would be great to listen to you. Over to Asta.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Asta Chahal. I'm a third year law student from Maharashtra National Law University, Aurangabad. First of all, I would like to thank everyone at Faculty of Law at the Chinese University of Hong Kong for providing me a platform and the opportunity to present my paper on clinical legal education in India. The preamble of the Indian Constitution, it provides that justice in any form, being social, economic and political, it must be provided to all the citizens. And the mere assurance of justice is of no substance if the citizens, they are denied their social and economic rights. To ensure the citizens their rights, there have been laid down certain provisions in the Indian Constitution. Part 4 of the Indian Constitution, which talks about the directive principles of state policies, it is a set of principles which lays down the groundwork or the framework for the policies and legislations to be enacted. But these set of principles or these DPSPs, they are not enforceable in any court of law. The mere work of them is to lay groundwork for enacting legislations and laws. Article 8 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it provides that everyone has the right to an effective remedy by competent national tribunals in case of the breach of rights or breach of the rights or the fundamental rights which are granted by the Constitution or by the code of law. So, based on this principle of the UDHR, Article 39A of the Indian Constitution, it provides and it guarantees the remedies to address the rights violations. It helps, it lays down the provision. It is a provision which has ensured the framework and which has paved the way for legal education in India. However, once the article is enacted, when the article has provided a framework for the acts and legislations to be formed, the next task that comes upon is how these remedies are addressed at a community level, at the ground level. For reaching out to the people at the community level, it was necessary that legal education needs to be imparted at a young age, and the method with which the clinical legal education or the legal education needs to be imparted, that was one such task which was before the reformers and the legislators. So the history of legal education in India, it began from various reform movements and various commission reports. The first being the Bombay Legal Education Committee of 1949. It is the Bombay Legal Education Commission of 1949. Soon after India got its independence, it was important for the lawmakers and the legislators to make such provisions to pave the way for legal education for the youth, which they needed to provide such education which could help the growth of India as a country, as an independent country. So this commission, it provided that practical courses should be included in the course of law, and various activities like the group discussions, seminars and moot court competitions and moot court activities should be encouraged for imparting effective legal education among the law students. In this way, the practical nuances of the field of law, they could be better enforced, they could be better taught to the students by the teachers. The next being the 14th Law Commission of India report. This report is important as it stressed on the importance of professional training, because the importance of professional training because it creates a balance between academic and vocational courses and helps bridge the gap that is left between the professional it helps bridge the gap between the classwork training and the practical training of the field of law. Moving on to the next, after these commission reports and these various commissions were set up and they suggested various reforms in the legal education, introduction of 5-year courses was done in 1970. The lawmakers, the reformers, the educators, they were of the view that imparting students with legal education at a very young age would be detrimental and help them in understanding the concept of social justice. The concept of social justice meaning reaching the people at the ground level, at the community level, creating a platform where they are heard, where they are aware of their rights and duties, and how when their rights are violated, when there are instances when they don't know what to do about when their rights are violated. So the introduction of 5-year course in 1970 proved to be detrimental, and it has helped legal education grow from that time till the 21st century. After the introduction of 5-year courses, national law schools in India, they were established. The aim of the establishing national law schools in India were that the main objective behind them being that the 5-year legal courses for the legal education, the purpose behind it being that students are taught about law at a very young age, and that would be effective in their life, and how these young students would help the society by learning such things at a very young age. This was the chronology of how legal education in India saw its phase, how it came to India, how it was enforced, how various policy decisions were implemented. The question now which arises is, why was there a need for providing with legal remedies? Why are there instances that legal remedies are not provided to such such people, to the underprivileged one? Because to access the legal remedies, it may be either due to financial lack of means, or lack of good representation, or lack of legal awareness, which is detriment. And legal education and clinical legal education works in this respect of making people aware of their rights, of making them the pro bono legal services, of introducing them to pro bono legal services so they could benefit from it. The Indian government has passed various legislation such as the Legal Services Authorities Act 1987. This act this Legal Services Act, it has established legal service authorities at 3 different levels. The first being the national, which is known as the National Legal Services Authority, at the state, which is at the national level, then at the state level, and then at the district level, which helps bridge the gap for legal representation for those people who cannot access to legal remedies due to lack of funds, due to lack of money, lack of representation, or lack of awareness as to what to do. These acts have established these authorities at 3 different when their rights are violated. So the introduction of 5-year course in 1970 proved to be detrimental, and it has helped legal education grow from that time till the 21st century. After the introduction of 5-year courses, national law schools in India, they were established. The aim of the establishing national law schools in India were that the main objective behind them being that the 5-year legal courses for the legal education, the purpose behind it being that students are taught about law at a very young age, and that would be effective in their life, and how these young students would help the society by learning such things at a very young age. This was the chronology of how legal education in India saw its phase, how it came to India, how it was enforced, how various policy decisions were implemented. The question now which arises is, why was there a need for providing with legal remedies? Why are there instances that legal remedies are not provided to such such people, to the underprivileged one? Because to access the legal remedies, it may be either due to financial lack of means, or lack of good representation, or lack of legal awareness, which is detriment. And legal education and clinical legal education works in this respect of making people aware of their rights, of making them the pro bono legal services, of introducing them to pro bono legal services so they could benefit from it. The Indian government has passed various legislation such as the Legal Services Authorities Act 1987. This act this Legal Services Act, it has established legal service authorities at 3 different levels. The first being the national, which is known as the National Legal Services Authorities Act authority, at the state, which is at the national level, then at the state level, and then at the district level, which helps bridge the gap for legal representation for those people who cannot access to legal remedies due to lack of funds, due to lack of money, lack of representation, or lack of awareness as to what to do. These acts have established these authorities at 3 different levels, which ensures that at each level ensures that no one is left unaware of their rights, and no one is and they are getting the equal representation in terms of courts, in terms of when their rights are violated. The question, one more question which arises is that why are these students encouraged and promoted to understand and study legal education? The concept of social justice is reached. So the students are taught the concept of social justice in their classrooms. They are taught the classwork. They are taught about the book definition of what social justice is, how it can be achieved. But how do you really achieve? How do you, as a law student, as a legal professional, how do you go out there and achieve social justice, which is provided in the preamble of the Indian Constitution? So here the legal education comes in, and it provides the practical experience of how things are done, how such justice can be given to people. They can be given the platform and the representation, so they are not deprived of their rights. The growth of legal education, it didn't happen suddenly. There were various movements which I mentioned earlier in my speech, that it took years of deliberation, of policy making, and setting objectives which has made clinical legal education a reality in India. So these deliberations by policymakers, lawmakers, they have proved detrimental, and they have paved the way of legal education in India. However, there are still lacunas which need to be filled. There are still a lot of shortcomings in our legal education which need to be done. A lot has done and a lot has to be done now. As a law student, as legal professionals, as trainees, it should be our objective as to provide and reach at the community level, to engage at the community level and serve for the betterment, because the clinical education, it is a tool, and we have to use that tool to reach to those people who cannot access to law, who are not even aware of their rights. Legal education, in a way, it has also forced, and it has in a way forces the lawyers that it is their duty, that it is their role that they need to be performed, that in adjudicating and administrating various policies and the initiatives related to it. So as a lawyer, as a law student, it is our duty to adjudicate and make such initiatives which work for the betterment of the communities, the society, and so that we can formulate various policies which are beneficial for the people at the ground level. So this summing up my speech, I would like to say that clinical legal education, it is a tool that has helped bridge the gap between the classwork, the classroom to the ground reality. Working at the ground reality would make the students, the professionals, the teachers realize what needs to be actually done and how far we have come. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Asta. I believe this background that you have set in and to trace the history and how it's developed would also give you a foundation to understand why you're going to be studying the clinical papers in your 4th and the 5th year. Since we're running out of time, I've just any questions as of now? I believe they're very clear about what you've put forward, so they do not have a question. I just have one clarification and one question, just so that we get it clear. First one, there was a reference of 5 years starting off in 1970s. So are you talking about the groundwork being set in 1970s, or are you starting about the course starting in 1970s?
The groundwork was laid out in early 1960s and 70s, and then it was implemented further. The 5 year.
Right. So you're referring to the groundwork that's happening and the reports that happened then. Perfect.
Yeah.
And the second, maybe one of your personal opinion would be, since till your 3rd year, what was your level, as in the first 2 to 3 years? How were you given an opportunity to be involved in the legal aid activities? If you could just sum it up in, let's say, 30 seconds, and then,
Being in the first 3 years of your law school, it's very starting. You don't know much about law, how things are done. But as a part of our legal aid cell, the maids which used to work at our hostel, we used to talk to them about what are they aware of, what are the rights they might have. We conducted a workshop for them, telling them, because a lot of women were working at our hostel, they faced domestic abuse and other things. So we made them aware about it. So that was the first experience that as a student I got to know of legal education, of how it could benefit others apart from us.
Excellent. So you did have an opportunity to be involved with the legal aid clinic.
Yeah.
Brilliant. All right.